So it's May of 2022, right? So what do we do in May 2022? We look back at May 2021. What was on the hype? What was on my radar? Where are things a year later? Let's do this. Also, a little special intro here right after the break. No preamble. Smash the like, smash the Patreon, smash the thumb. Let's do this. Let's smash ONIMARU. Star date, 1,200 days since ONIMARU funded. Think about that. 1,200 freaking days. But, did you know, have you been following along the latest updates? They actually have a pre-production copy. The second to last update from April. That right there, folks, is a pre-production copy. It looks like you, ONIMARU, sorrowful few, will actually be getting a copy, potentially at some point now in the future. Now, again, is it going to be before 2024? Heck no. But there might, not going to say will be, there might be a light at the end of the tunnel here. They're correcting issues. New pre-production copy per the next update, the most recent update in May right here, should be sometime later this month, which means probably by the middle of June. But, glimmer of hope? Or just getting your hopes up? I don't know. But, if this turns out to be out there, I'd be willing to give it a shot. Penguin Panda, shoot me an email. I'd be okay with that. So, where else are we at? Now, I went back, as I said in the other video a couple days ago, that I wanted to look at the games that I had on my radar for May of 2021 when I was started the month of May. And surprisingly, that video had 3,700 views. What are the games I had on that? What are the ones that popped up in between? I have a list of 7 other games here that either were on that list or made waves for me in some way, shape, or form from that month. Let's go into it. First up, and by far the biggest of all of 2021, it was The Witcher, with nearly 7 million euros raised. That's a whole freaking metric ton, right? I had a video, I did a review of it, I did impressions of it based on the competitive gameplay. Since then, since the campaign aired, they've put out a whole bunch more stuff. They're working on it. People are, trying to get in late. People are, I've seen even trying to sell pledges. How do you feel about it now? Looking back, I was pretty critical of this game, but I still said it was going to be a really very solid game. And that's okay. And where are things at? Because again, my biggest concern when the campaign finished, because as you can see here, I was a €1 pledge backer. I wasn't sure where I was going to go. I did not upgrade that pledge. It's definitely on the longer side. I don't know how the solo plays. I don't know how the cooperative plays. And it had about, 5 expansions or so. Now, if you got the Deluxe, you got a whole bunch of other stuff that went along with it, including a little bit of Kickstarter exclusive. And how do you feel about that? Again, monsters, cool building, cool battling mechanics, upgradable powers and, stats as you're growing along. A little bit of deck building along the way. Again, the base pledge was really a good freaking deal. But do you need these 3 other expansions? The gameplay all in, again, 230 euros. Or the all in, 280 euros. The add-ons, the mages expansion, because people wanted mages, not just witchers. The legendary hunt, adding super bosses essentially in there, super monsters, if you will. And then a whole separate island expansion map, I believe, as well. So that's the little thing for backing soon enough or, getting in early enough, something like that. Playmat, dice, all the other deluxeifications. All the stretch goals down here, great. Tons of stuff, scenarios, cards, everything you need. This was supposed to be June 2022, as you can see here. Where are we at currently with the updates? Let's check it out. They mention in the latest update from the end of April that things are proceeding. Again, June 2022, way underestimation. You're going to be lucky if you get this by the end of 2023. They are getting ready the expansion files to send to the printer. But unfortunately, about the production because of the COVID situation of the shutdown in China of the last month. They did some pre-production, but not really a whole lot else. So again, it's beautiful to look at. And how do you feel about it now? I mean, I was probably a 6 or 7 during. I'm probably an easy 3 or 4 now because I feel good about not backing it. There are very few games that I look back and I go, I should have backed that. That was last month's video where I had 2 or 3 games that I said, wow, I should have done this. I'm very happy with my decision. Again, I think this is going to be a very solid game. I think people are going to like it, especially if they watch some of the stuff going in of knowing what you were going to be getting yourself into. But it wasn't for me, and I was okay with that. Not everyone is a great fit with everything. Not every game is a good fit with everyone, and that's okay. They're doing stuff new in this game. I give them a lot of credit and a lot of innovative techniques, but some of the parts for me was a little bit too long for what it was and to be easily hitting the table nowadays, and that was really about the time I really started looking at that as an introspective, I need to be aware of this. Anyway, it's going to be really interesting to see what the final stuff looks like. Are all the expansions going to be equally as good? I hope so. There you go, The Witcher #1. Speaking of big name companies, we're going to go over to, I'm going to screw this one up, Hoplomachu. This is the latest solo edition, I believe with more of a campaign coming from Chip Theory Games. This also was in May last year. So where are things at with this one? Because if you're familiar with this, this is one of their bigger solo-only games. And as with the Chip Theory games, they really do a better price during the crowdfunding. They offer that as the incentive because they only sell through their store, right? And so $95 for this was a relatively good deal. You know, it's a new version of this game. You want the old version? Remastered. You want everything right there with premium stuff? $255. Woo! Again, it's not a cheap game. These are luxury games, without a doubt. And it's a solo game only. I love the idea of a game like this. I don't really do a whole lot of solo. Occasionally I do. I do it more as learning games. But this was the one that really sort of tempted me as the first, okay, what do you think about this, Chris? What are you saying? Because this is the sort of thing that I think would be easier to hit the table. Sort of what I thought I would like with Too Many Bones. I think this has more appeal to me than that did. As you're fighting a gladiator, going across battles, trying to level your character up, and just trying to be able to defeat enemies at the end. Double-sided premium neoprene mats, heavy duty poker chips. I mean, that's what they're known for. And this is taking a classic system, upgrading it, even remastering it with the other version, and making it better. So this is one I would be really happy to have in my collection to try out. But at the time, I was kind of, at the time, so I was probably 4 or 5. Now I'd probably be a solid 6, 6.5. But it would have to be the right time and the right place. Because I can't see myself buying it at retail, but I could see myself somehow ending up with it later in my collection somehow. And I think it just does unique, interesting things that nothing else does. Now, the one thing I'll say that I'm not as big a fan of on the Too Many Bones, and this would probably be my biggest concern, is some of these symbology that's on these little poker chips. There's a lot to remember, and Too Many Bones is not very intuitive. If this is more intuitive, if this makes more sense, it's easier to interpret, then it would be a lot more appealing. If it doesn't, if it has a lot more of that, I would probably be a little bit gun shy with it as well. So there you go. Let's see where the updates are at, because this was, again, March of 2022. Going back to the graphic I showed you at the beginning, let's see. We are about to submit everything from manufacturing. They have the final rulebook, the master skills list, and then they just need to do a full proof of the rulebook finally to get that taken care of. Dice samples. Okay. So where are we looking at here? I mean, again, I would imagine end of 2022 if things go right. They've got a lot on their plate. We know we're going to see an Elder Scrolls game from them in the future. I don't know what else they're going to do with the Too Many Bones after that delivers, because they said that was the final Too Many Bones, but maybe not the final Too Many Bones universe game. So, yeah. Okay, there you go. That is where Hoplomachu is at. Now, I mentioned in the other video, gross over deluxeification. That was Kingdom Builder. Go check that campaign page out. Speaking of gross over deluxeifications with a castle theme, Here we have Castle Panic from Fireside Games, the Deluxe Collection. Tons and tons of plastic, in case Castle Panic didn't have enough castles in for you. You need more cowbell, well, you need more castle here as well. This basically combined everything that you could think of in a plastic version, but also you could get some of it in a wood version as well. Plastic only, deluxe, and let's see the other ones. Again, expansion and everything deluxe. So everything. And it raised $420,000. May 2022. Okay, a year later, let's see where all this plastic is at. Don't panic, late pledges, not going to be sold to retailers. Again, look at how big that box is. I mean, we're talking, I'm guessing, bigger than Gloomhaven. I guess more along the lines of like Euthia, or even the more recent, what was that other one? Foundations of Rome. That's sort of what it looks like to me. And do you need a more blinged out version of this cooperative castle faring, monster holding, sort of tower defense-ish, not really, but sort of cooperative family game? And that was the question. And a bunch of people said so. And so let's check though, because I have no idea where this is at. My hype for this was like a 1, 2 when it came, and it's about the same. I have no interest. I've played this game. It, from a cooperative sense, it just doesn't do it for me as other cooperative games do. So let's see. April update, a little over a week since this update has happened when I'm filming this. Let's see. Trays, 3D prints, samples of all the minis. Here are the examples. And overall, so... okay. That doesn't really tell me time frame, though. Let's see if we can find another update with a time frame, because I mean, clearly if they're just getting mini samples and tray samples, production hasn't happened. And so, I mean, production is going to take anywhere 4 to 6 weeks. Shipping is going to be another 4 to 6 weeks after that. And then delivery is going to be another 2 to 4 weeks after that. So potentially on the bare minimum, you're probably talking 12 weeks, 3 months from now. That's August. That's if everything goes right. Realistically, probably September, October. So again, you'd probably be lucky if you get this by the end of the year. So let's see if we can find anything. Latest update on the schedule from the factory. Okay. Oh, wow. I underestimated. They're saying middle of October for the finishing of production. So December, pending any issues with international shipping especially, you're going to be darn lucky to get this by the end of 2022, if anything. I would say probably the beginning of 2023. So there you go. Castle Panic Deluxe. Next up, Vivid Memories. This one's been out for a while. This one's been out at retail for a while. This was a more complicated Azul Sagrada-esque realm that utilized tile drafting, collecting these memories in a very gem jewel-like way in a 3 per hex, essentially, with, again, deluxeifications, double-sided tiles, and a playmat. Interesting. And it seems to be relatively well received. And again, October 2021. I mean, this one was delivered relatively on time, I believe. So I don't know where it's at, though. How are people responding to this one? I have not looked up this one on Board Game Geek. Let's go do that real quick. That's rough. 6.9. I mean, that's not bad. I was expecting a little bit higher. My biggest problem with this one when I looked at it was not that I didn't think it was going to be a good game, but it looked like it was more complicated for what it was trying to do in the time frame and the competition that it was going up against. Like I mentioned, part of the allure of Sagrada or Azul is that there's enough, but it doesn't outstay its welcome. And that's what I worried about with this, was it was so complex with so many different with so many patterns and building and drafting and matching and, grabbing in terms of cards and points, that it was just going to be a little bit too much all in one. So again, I wouldn't mind trying it at some point, but at the time I wasn't also disappointed I passed on it, because it sort of is a little bit too heavy of a filler, but not heavy enough to, feel like it needs to be that heavy. And so I don't know if that's where these criticisms are at, but that was my initial impression and why I passed on it, because it sort of fits that niche that I just don't really, if I want something light, I want something light and short. If I want something a little heavier, I want something a little heavier, and I know that it's going to be heavier. I don't want a game that's supposed to be lighter that's actually a little heavier. And I've got a couple of those that I've played recently that I go, not really sure how I feel about you. So I'm not going to look at the comments here, but, I will look at the comments here. Let's see what we got. Not my cup of tea. disconnect between theme and gameplay, pattern building puzzles. Too thinky, like Calico. I mean, I don't think necessarily Calico's too thinky. It's interesting. Okay. But there's only 300. So I take that with a very much small sample size grain of salt. But interesting. Let me know what you think. I was probably a 6 or 7. I'm probably like a 3 now, just because again, to steal one of the comments I just read, I was overthinking it during the campaign, and I felt better when I passed on it after the campaign was done. Then I felt sad that I didn't get a copy. So I'm okay with it. Again, it's a game I'd love to try out because it's still on my radar, but we'll see. Next up, very unique game, Ice, with the tiles that you were sort of able to manipulate. Reminded me more of Phasalis, the kids game, with an adult twist, but with the layers of going through these tiles, only with more of a tile action that you're doing here, more of a Euro style, as you're digging through the ice trying to find resources, and I think not fall in either, but maybe I'm making that part up. Again, it did really well, but it was this really weird price point. It was really a lot more expensive than what people thought initially, based on the components that they were doing to make it that unique sense of digging through the layers. 4,000 people, almost 300,000 pounds, which is great for, I believe this is a first-time creator. But, the price point was nearly 70 euros just for the base game. And the other thing that was only with it in terms of exclusivity was a print. So how do you feel about that? Again, very interesting. But you can see here as you're laying these tiles, and it changes the dynamic and the terrain that's on the hex-based system in the first place. And I believe they have a little bit of here we go. The board that comes off in 4 parts that is layered sort of inlet there. So how to make the board itself. Very interesting concept. Again, I want to see what this one looks like, because I can see this one going either way when it comes to retail and backers in terms of where things end up. So let's check out where the update's at. Oh, whoops. I didn't actually look on when it's supposed to be due. Let's see. May the 4th be with you, marking the launch. Basically, they say, it was originally supposed to be shipped in 2022, but, first time people not knowing how long some of this stuff was going to take, and just where everything was going to lie in terms of that. And they said they finally signed off on the production in Panda Games Manufacturing. So as soon as they get some of those copies, they can have a little bit more of a, I guess, sense of when things are actually going to go. But again, sort of like Castle Panic, I would doubt maybe much before the end of the year at this point. So again, interesting. They're giving away 3. That's kind of weird. Giving away 3 pledges. So that's interesting, because you kind of have to be subscribed to get the pledges. And if you're doing this, you already have a pledge. So you're giving it to people who already have pledges. Anyway, okay, cool. When was this update actually? May 4th. May the 4th. Well, duh, May the 4th. I just went by that. So maybe if you check this out soon enough, maybe you can win one of those copies if you're mentioning it, if nothing else. So you just have to go on to one of their social medias, and they'll be launched within the next week of that. So probably sometime soon if they're not already up. So there you go. Ice. Mid-campaign. Pre-campaign, I was probably a 7. Mid-campaign, I was probably a 4. Now, again, I'm 4-ish, 3-ish. Be interesting to see where it ends up. Wouldn't mind trying it out sometime, but have no interest in picking it up for myself, at least personally. Right now for my collection, but definitely gonna have my eyes on it regardless. EOS, Island of Angels, the asymmetric engine builder. Again, this was one that, with Grey Fox Games, I went down to the wire. I literally went down to the last hour of this campaign debating whether or not to back it. And I finally, King Raccoon Games, with a combination of Grey Fox, ended up saying no. I ended up saying no, I'm not interested. I'm going to pass on this one. Let's see where it lies. Because I watched some of the gameplay, I watched some of the how to play, and with the asymmetry with the engine building, there was so much going on with the different factions that I said, whoa. Again, it reminded me more of Vivid Memories. Like, it was almost too much for me. For me, I'm not saying for anyone else, but for me, in terms of what was going on in the game board and keeping track and how the different factions were different. The concept is very alluring, though. Traveling through these areas, trying to get into the center, fighting demons, trying to rescue angels, using an engine as you go to build stronger and stronger ship with factions and allies. And again, it had exclusives and asymmetry there. So, there was reason to get it then. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Again, because I thought it was just maybe a little bit too heavy of a Euro game for me. This is probably the only other one on the list that I have some serious regrets about in terms of things that might have been a really good fit. Again, expansion there, deluxe exclusivity there, mostly deluxe upgrades, but a few other things thrown in. So, I mean, am I going to regret this one? Maybe. If I do, I'll try and pick it up on the secondary market. This one was supposed to be December 2022. Okay, so they said, hey guys, we're not going to have it to you anytime soon. And that's okay. Again, this one was one that had plenty of videos. I believe I watched a couple down here. I don't think I watched Gray Fox's. I think I watched somebody else's actual video on Board Game Geek. But yeah, I think it was the Hungry Gamers. Maybe it was Alex's. I don't know. I think it was Hungry Gamers. Anyway, so where are we at in terms of updates for this one? I was probably pre-campaign 6, end of campaign 7.5. Now I'm sort of, again, probably sitting about a 7 with this one. Further to printing, so they're not to printing yet. Okay, no, they are. Wooden markers and tokens are in production. Then all the materials, all the texts, though, are currently in editing. Okay, that's interesting that they're splitting them up like that. Does that usually happen? I usually don't see that happen. So let's see. What was the previous update? Let's see. Playtests are done. That was March. So not even anything in between. Again, they're doing all the wood stuff and the cardboard stuff first. Okay. I mean, again, I don't have a clue if that's normal or not. Let's go back here a second. When was this one? So we should be due any time for another update here to see where this production is at and where the text and editing for the rulebook stuff is at and all the other, I'm assuming card-based systems with all the text are going to be too. So again, yeah, this one's going to be, you're going to be, again, lucky if you get it by the end of 2022, but that's closer to where they're projecting in the first place. So there you go. Again, last up here, Robot Quest Arena, the deck building game from the creators of Star Realms. So this one was interesting. Deck building robot. If you remember that show on Comedy Central where they had the robots fight, I mean, that's essentially what this is. And it's some take that. It's got some exclusives. You have more head-to-head robot smashing, but I don't believe you actually get eliminated. I believe it's sort of like several of the other games I've seen recently. I just picked up a copy of the Disney Sorcerer's Arena Contest core game from the OP, where you get knocked out, you get victory points, but then you come right back in. And so this reminds me very much of that. Only you've got robots that you're upgrading in various ways, manners, shapes, and forms in order to attack them. But you're doing it instead of with just whatever you want or your asymmetric starting deck, you have an actual deck that you're going to be customizing in order to, build, attack, and just duel better. So a very interesting concept. It's going to be interesting to see how it actually, very interesting concept. We'll see how it actually turns out in execution, because it was also not a cheap one either. $89 for all 3 of these, and 3 of these were, $40, so $13 each. It's not bad. It's about the normal price, I guess. So let's see. May 2022. Okay, May 2022. Again, 5 and 5 probably, because the theme doesn't do anything for me, but it's a deck builder done in a different way. So it's, again, going to stay on my radar as a deck builder fan. So let's see where things are at in terms of updates. May 4, factory mini samples. So how close are we? They've finished the pre-production proofs of those. But where is the rest of the game stuff? Because miniatures are nice, but they're also tend to be the longest in terms of waiting. So mass producing them, and then it's going to take those a month longer than to produce the rest of the game. So they're going to start those early and then hopefully have the rest of it done a month later, they say. So it can all be hopefully ending around the same time. They say shipping sometime between August and September. So maybe you'll get it right before the end of the year. Okay. And it was supposed to be what? May? Okay. 6 months. 7 or 8 months, really. Okay. It's about usual for Kickstarter. Again, deck building done in a different way. It's going to stay on my radar no matter what. So there you go. That's it. That is your hype look back roundup of 2021 in 2022. I love doing these. This is going to be a monthly feature, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this evolves over time. It'd be really, really interesting to start looking back 2 years. Like 1 year for most of these projects, as you saw on this list and the other lists when you've looked at these videos, if you have, the other months that I've done this, some of these are delivered, but most of them are not. So like the 2 year look back to really see, again, those scores on Board Game Geek, because even Vivid Memories on there is a 6.9. I mean, that's not that far out. Like, let's see the test of time. After they've been out like a year or 2 years, then let's look back. You know, a year or two from now, when I'm looking back on some of this stuff, that's going to be the really interesting telling thing, comparing the funding with the effect on the, you know, scene of the hobby, but also the lasting ability. Because, I mean, it's fun to look forward, but it's also some fun to say, hey, I was right about this one, or hey, whoa, I missed that one, or hey, that's kind of cool that this one came out of. So, there you go. That's why I like doing these videos. Not as many this time around, but some interesting ones nonetheless. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for helping me out. Thanks for clicking anything you can do. Smash that thumb button and have a great day. Stay classy. See you around.